Why did Granny Sai reveal her true face? What secrets are hidden inside the human emperor's seal? And why was Qin Mu forced into another battle? The preview breakdown for Tales of Herding Gods episode 86 starts now. After hearing the village chief explain the heavy responsibility of the human emperor, Qin Mu instantly felt his head go numb. Without a second thought, he threw the human emperor's seal back into the village chief's arms and turned around to run. But in the very next moment, the village chief forcibly dragged him back. The village chief insisted on passing his inheritance to Qin Mu, and even told him that he must one day visit the human emperor hall to see the achievements of every human emperor throughout history. At the same time, he gave Qin Mu a solemn warning. Although his sword technique was terrifyingly powerful once it was revealed and seen by gods or devils, it could bring Qin Mu a fatal disaster. Qin Mu resisted with all his strength and hurriedly asked Granny Sai for help. But Granny Sai only thought Qin Mu was too excited after receiving such a heaven-defying inheritance. She kept sighing emotionally, saying that his fortune was truly incredible, since he was able to inherit the legacy of the former #1 sword god under heaven. Unable to break free, Qin Mu could only accept his fate and take the human emperor's seal. The village chief then asked Qin Mu to display mountains and rivers within the sword to test his progress. However, this time, Qin Mu had fused the basic sword moves of the national preceptor of the Kang nation into the technique, giving it many new variations. Seeing this, the village chief was not angry at all. Instead, he praised Qin Mu for not blindly clinging to old rules and daring to innovate. He even saw through Qin Mu's method of using the coiling sword form to refine his qi into threads. Immediately after that, the village chief decided to suppress his cultivation to the 5 Wonders realm and clash with Qin Mu using the same move. Qin Mu seized the chance and made a bet with him. If Qin Mu won, he would no longer have to become the human emperor. The village chief calmly agreed. Qin Mu instantly transformed into the form of your Lord Taibai's star and activated his improved version of mountains and rivers within the sword, a move that had fused sword technique with the painting path of the national preceptor. But after colliding with the village chief's sword move, Qin Mu was wounded in dozens of places. He was blasted away by sword qi and slammed hard against the wall. Still unwilling to admit defeat, Qin Mu fought again and again. Yet every time he attacked with all his strength, the result was the same: a crushing defeat. After Qin Mu exhausted his vital qi and ran off to recover, Apothecary immediately exposed the truth. This battle might have looked fair on the surface, but with the village chief's cultivation suppressed to the 5 Wonders realm, he should not have been able to unleash that many sword moves in a row. Afterward, the two of them began discussing the secrets behind the human emperor's seal and the inheritance of the human emperor. Apothecary had heard the legend that the human emperor's seal contained tens of thousands of years of ancient inheritance, and that it could command heroes from all under heaven. Its authority was said to far surpass even an emperor's jade seal. But the village chief said bluntly that the human emperor's seal had long since become nothing more than an ordinary lump of black iron. It no longer had any power to command the world. Then he revealed the truth about the human emperors of past generations. Every human emperor had carried the safety of all living beings on their shoulders, even though they knew the road ahead was filled with danger, and that there was a high chance they would die. With both body and Tao destroyed, they still chose to move forward. All of it was to leave one final thread of hope for the world. This was also the real reason why the village chief, knowing that his own time was running out, forcefully handed the inheritance over to Qin Mu. The village chief also pointed out that mountains and rivers within the sword had been polished by him over an entire lifetime. By now it no longer had any flaws. The more Qin Mu tried to improve and innovate it, the more weaknesses he created. However, the more he changed it, the deeper his understanding of the sword became. At this moment, Qin Mu was standing between technique and Tao, under the village chief's intense pressure. Tempering himself through battle was far more effective than passively learning sword moves. After resting, regulating his breath, and returning to his peak condition, Qin Mu did not rush into another fight. Instead, he sat quietly and entered deep comprehension. He tried to completely patch every flaw in the improved version of mountains and rivers within the sword, which had incorporated the sword path of the national preceptor. Inside his mind, he simulated the duel countless times, deducing endless changes in sword moves. But no matter how many times he tried, he still could not change the outcome of defeat. Even so, every failed deduction pushed Qin Mu's understanding of the sword path one step deeper. His sword move also grew closer and closer to perfection, when he finally reached his own limit and could no longer improve it any further. Qin Mu displayed the still unfamiliar sunset sword technique, yet the power of the move flowed naturally deep and majestic as though it had been refined for years. At that moment, Qin Mu finally understood the village chief's painstaking teaching. He sincerely knelt down and performed the grand disciple's bow. Only then did the village chief begin teaching Qin Mu the later moves of the sword diagram. This sword path, ultimate art created by the village chief himself, only had 8 moves in total. Each move corresponded to one cultivation realm. The mountains and rivers, within the sword that Qin Mu had spent more than 10 days learning, was actually the simplest move in the sword diagram. The second move, Sword Emerges. Founding Emperor was far more difficult. Even though Qin Mu's vision, comprehension, and cultivation were no longer what they once were, he still spent more than 20 days before barely mastering it. This sword move contained a heavy artistic conception of remembering fallen heroes. Its consumption of vital qi was terrifying. With just one strike, it drained nearly half of Qin Mu's cultivation. As for the third move, Supreme Emperor Calamity moves, it had already reached the extreme of sword technique. Limited by his current vision and foundation, Qin Mu could only memorize the form of the move. He was still unable to comprehend its core mysteries or unleash it freely. While studying sword techniques, Qin Mu also followed the other elders of the village of the disabled to cultivate all kinds of ultimate arts. This time, the elders were no longer limited to teaching him only the basics. They began passing down their lifelong profound skills without holding anything back. However, this peaceful period of cultivation did not last long. Granny C's heart devil suddenly erupted. Her body was completely suppressed by the primordial spirit of Sect Master Li, causing her peerless true appearance to be revealed. The moment the people of the village of the disabled saw her true face, they all lost their composure. Their minds went blank, their spirits became dazed, and they could barely control themselves. Looking at this part of the story, most cultivators in the world fear flaws and obsess over perfection. But the village chief understands the true nature of growth. A flawless move that never changes may look perfect, but in the end, it only becomes a shackle that binds the cultivator. Qin Mu boldly fused everything he had learned and constantly modified his sword technique. Even though this created flaw after flaw through repeated deduction, defeat, and reflection, his understanding of the sword path grew deeper and deeper. He broke through his own limits step by step. Those miserable defeats, those exhausting training sessions, and those endless mental simulations were never meaningless. It was precisely because Qin Mu dared to break the old structure, refused to fear imperfection, and kept improving through trial and error that he was able to step outside the fixed framework of cultivation. And from there he began walking a path that belonged to him alone. That's all for this preview breakdown. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating.